Thank you everyone for your patience. Good evening and welcome to the City of Markham's Animal Services Roundtable. My name is Erica Alligood and I will be moderating today's session. We begin today by acknowledging the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples and their commitment to stewardship of the land. We acknowledge the communities in circle, the north, west, south, and eastern directions, and Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabeg, Seneca, Chippewa, and the Mississaugas of the Credit peoples. We share the responsibility with the caretakers of this land to ensure the dish is never empty and to restore relationships that are based on peace, friendship, and trust. We are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. I'd like to note that today's session is being recorded, and to ensure an inclusive experience, closed captioning is available by clicking the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen. Following the presentation tonight, there will be a question and answer period. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions, and we will do our best to address all inquiries. I will now pass this on to Mayor Scarpitti to provide some opening remarks.
Great, thank you very much, Erica, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this public session on our animal services. I appreciate you taking time out and your interest in the topic. Probably most that are here know that animal services was brought in-house back in April of 2021. And obviously, animal care services does play a critical role in our community to ensure the welfare and safety of animals within the community, but I'll also say the public as well, not just the animals, because a lot obviously deals with coexistence and responding to community concerns. Animal services are responsible for enforcing legislation related to animals, including the Animal Protection and Services Bylaw, which is local legislation, and also the Dog Owners Liability Act. And regulations include everything from leash laws to licensing and preventing harm to all animals, both domestic and wildlife. They also handle wildlife encounters in our community and promoting coexistence and addressing public safety concerns. Animal services also offer educational programs to inform the public, and they do that in various ways by attending different events, partnership with local community groups and local businesses. And some key partnerships are with some very important external agencies, and they include everything from York Regional Police, Fire and Emergency Services, the Ontario SPCA, and Shades of Hope Wildlife Refuge. And I'd also want to take a moment to also thank members of our previous Animal Care Committee. They were really instrumental on a number of fronts, working obviously with our staff in developing some of the policies and programs that we have in place, and also doing some fundraising towards our cat adoption center located in the Thornhill Community Center, which really has been a successful center on many fronts, not only the adoption of cats, but the opportunity for kids with learning disabilities or certainly being held back because of reading ability to go in and read with cats. Now, I don't know if I agree with this, but cats generally are not judgmental. But anyways, I'm told they're certainly not judgmental with young kids who are learning how to read. But with that, I just want to say thank you to them for their contribution, because some of the success, no doubt, that we have today is in large part to their contribution. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Erica.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would now like to welcome Trinella Kane, our Commissioner of Corporate Services, to add some remarks as well.
Unmute myself. Good evening, everyone. My name is Trinella Kane, and I am the Commissioner of Corporate Services at the City, and my portfolio includes a responsibility for the Animal Services Program. On behalf of Kimberly Kitteringham, the responsible director of the service, and myself, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our very first Animal Services Roundtable, which will become an annual event. The purpose of the session today is to provide a detailed update on our Animal Services program with support from key city department staff and external partners, all of whom contribute to the success of our service. I am very proud of the work we've done over the past few years to create our own in-house Animal Services division, as the Mayor referenced. In the past few months, both Kimberly and I have had the benefit of doing some ride-alongs with our animal care officers. This has provided us with real insights into what the job entails, the complexities that our team and residents are dealing with, and a real sense of the value of the service on the ground. I hope you'll enjoy the session this evening. We've had good success with the webinar format in the past, including the recent engagement of the public with the Coyote strategy. We're pleased to receive your questions, as Erica notes, and we will ask for your feedback on what you think of the webinar and how it worked for you, so that we can plan effectively for future sessions. So thank you very much again for attending this evening. Look forward to hearing from you. And back to you, Erica.
Thank you, Commissioner Kane. Before we begin, I would also like to acknowledge some other members of council who have joined us for tonight's session along with our mayor. That includes Deputy Mayor Michael Chan, Regional Councillor Alan Ho, Councillor Rich Lau, Councillor Amanda Colucci, Councillor Reed McAlpine, and Councillor Juanita Nathan. Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. I'd now like to take a moment to introduce today's panelists. This information session tonight will be conducted by Christy Lehman, our Supervisor of Animal Care, Trinella Kane, our Commissioner of Corporate Services, Kimberly Kitteringham, our Director of Legislative Services and City Clerk, and Martha Pettit, Deputy City Clerk. Following the presentation, our city staff will also participate in a question and answer period. And now with that, I'll turn it over to Christy Lehman for her presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to wait till the presentation loads. Give me one moment. Technology is a beautiful thing as long as it works. Laura, it's not loaded on my screen, if you wouldn't mind assisting me, please. My apologies, folks. Just there we go. Perfect. So this is just a quick overview of our evening. Thank you to Erica for the introduction and Mayor Scarpitti for joining us, as well as other council members, and Trinella for the lovely opening remarks as well. So now I'll begin my presentation on animal services. You can go to the next slide, please. Again, good evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. The Animal Services Roundtable. This is our first of hopefully many to come. As indicated, I'm Christy Lehman. I am currently the Supervisor for Animal Services, and I'm going to provide you with a high-level overview of the city's animal services, what we've offered so far over the past 3 years of it being in-house. Next slide, please. Here's just a quick overview of what our presentation is going to consist of. So I'm going to start again by an overview of animal services in general, our roles and responsibilities, etc. Some of our key accomplishments that we did have from 2023. I'll give you some data analysis and some stats based on all of the services that we've offered. And then I'll end with some of our initiatives for this year going forward. Next slide, please. We do have a mission statement here in Animal Services, and it is to deliver a high-quality animal service program that ensures peaceful coexistence between residents and animals, prioritizing the safety of both. We are committed to preserving and protecting animals through education, community engagement, and enforcement of animal legislation. Next slide, please. Briefly, to introduce our team, we are a unit of 8 dynamic, high-performing, uniquely skilled officers, and we manage the day-to-day calls of all animal-related services within the municipality. This includes domestic and wildlife. I do want to note all of the photos that I use in this presentation are actually some of our clients, so to speak. All of the animals that we have come across, or some of the animals, I should say, that we have come across in all of our day-to-day operations. Next slide, please. So here's our team. Meet our team. Myself, I'm again the supervisor of animal services. I do have 2 full-time staff members, Adam Freeman and Dan Merrill, and I have 6 trained part-time officers as well: Terry Zielinski, Don Juranic, Ashley Beatty, Cameron Harima, and the Bear and Otter are 2 new members of our team that have actually recently just been hired, hence why their photos are of some creatures. Hopefully we don't encounter any bears, but we will update those as they become available and are onboarded on our team. We are part of the Legislative Services Division, and again, report to Martha Pettit, the Deputy City Clerk here at the city, and she ultimately reports into Kimberly Kitteringham, the City Clerk. We are separate of the bylaw services, but we are partnered with business licensing as well, and they are part of our legislative team. Next slide, please. Our animal services unit is responsible for a multitude of services as they relate to animals within our community, as we have repeatedly heard for the last few slides. A high-level overview of some of these services do include the enforcement of the city's Animal Protection and Services Bylaw, Dog Owners Liability Act, DOLA, and any other legislation that pertains to animals. We respond to calls related to sick and injured wildlife. We respond to calls related to stray domestic animals, pets. We provide education to residents on animal-related issues. We facilitate adoptions of stray domestic animals through our contracted service. We pick up deceased domestic animals, cats and dogs. It's important to note Roads Operations is responsible for the pickup of deceased wildlife removal on city property. And we do provide information on living harmoniously with wildlife. It is important to note, we do not intervene with healthy wildlife. We do provide tips and tricks on how to coexist with all wildlife within the municipality, but we do not respond to nuisance wildlife within the city. We do ask that any sort of nuisance problems that persist on private property, individuals reach out to a private licensed company for appropriate action. Next slide, please. How to contact us. The best way to report any animal-related issue to us is by calling the number located on the screen. We are on boots on the ground from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. That includes all holidays. Animals never sleep and never rest. We do have 2 officers on duty daily, one of full-time, one part-time. And if you do happen to contact us regarding an animal-related situation outside of those hours, there is a voicemail answering system that we encourage you to leave a message, and we will prioritize your call as first response at 8 a.m. when an officer is on duty. I can also say, obviously, if there's an event that's emergent that requires, some immediate assistance in terms of public safety or imminent threat, you can contact the police as well. Next slide, please. In an effort to make our presentation as interactive as possible, we've implemented several poll questions throughout the presentation, and we invite you to give your honest feedback. And again, this will be used to enhance, to assist in enhancing our future service delivery. So we're going to launch one of the poll questions now. And again, we ask you to answer yes or no, as indicated on the screen. And that is, do Markham's Animal Services hours of operation meet our community needs? So I'll just give you a few minutes to answer there. Okay, we'll give about 10 more seconds if anyone else would like to answer. Okay. And of those who did indicate that it did not meet your expectations or the community needs, so to speak, if you wouldn't mind, there's a question and answer box, I believe, at the bottom of your screen. If you wouldn't mind providing some feedback in there, we will happily address that, as I said, and utilize it again to enhance our services going forward.
Give a few seconds for anybody who has any additional feedback to just enter that in the Q&A box.
Mhm.
That's just using it at the button at the bottom of your screen there. And if we do receive any responses, I will read a couple out. There was a question in the chat. If you where you're using the question and answer box, that's where you can enter further information. If you did answer no to the first question, if Markham's hours of operation meet your community's needs. Just give another couple seconds.
And
So I did
again,
receive one comment, Christy.
sure.
It's regarding weekend coverage. So there
Mhm.
was somebody mentioning that they have called for issues on the weekend and have gotten an answering machine, and they've suggested that we do have someone answering and responding to issues over the weekend as well.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback. We do, like I said, have those officers on duty during those hours, and they pick up those voicemail messages as often as they are left, basically checking them every 10 to 15 minutes. So we do strongly encourage that you utilize the answering service, and somebody will get back to you as soon as possible. Like I said, very, very quickly, because we are constantly monitoring those calls as they come in, and we are quite responsive in that regard. But again, thank you for your feedback, and we will definitely take that into consideration, like I said, for future enhancements to our programs. Okay.
We also received a comment, Christy, on what to do with urgent overnight care.
Again, our officers are on until 9 p.m. nightly, and we encourage you to call that number as well. And the officers will respond first thing in the morning at 8 a.m. when they are on duty at that time. And those are the given service levels that we have currently. If it is, like I said, an imminent threat where someone is extremely urgent, public safety is imminent, we do suggest that you reach out to police. But again, we will respond first thing, especially in those situations where they are urgent.
Thank you, Christy. Just in the interest of time, I'll let you go ahead and continue the presentation. I just want anybody to note that anything submitted, whether it's feedback or questions and answers that we don't get to during this session, we will be taking everything back and continue to address any feedback that we receive. So I'll pass it back to you, Christy.
Thank you very much. And next slide, please, Laura. At the City of Markham, we are very fortunate to have several internal partners who assist us every day in our work. Their collaboration and support are integral to our success and enable us to serve our community effectively. These groups are also responsible for key policy areas and initiatives like the bird-friendly guidelines, environmental stability, and managing growth. We do have a number of these representatives on our call today, and they're here to address any concerns that are outside of the purview of animal services with my regards to my responsibility. And I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of them for all of their support. We appreciate all of the collaboration between all of you. High level, the contact center is a huge part of our operations. They're responsible for taking in all of our calls during business hours and sending them to us so we can respond. Our parks department, we work collaboratively on a number of initiatives, including signage and wildlife in our parks. Markham Fire, if there's ever, unfortunately, those incidences where there are animals left in a house fire, our officers do work with Markham Fire, our asset management group, to ensure that our facilities are being if they need assistance with any sort of wildlife or any issues pertaining to the facilities themselves. Our bylaw services team, we collaborate on cases where our services overlap. Roads operations, as I said, they pick up deceased wildlife for us, as well as notify us when there's situations of deceased domestics where we need to assist in picking up them. Planning and urban design, again, we have a few representatives here on the call to speak to some of our policies and our high-level initiatives at the city. And recreation, the museum and the library, they assist us in some of our education and our public outreach events. We piggyback on some of their already scheduled events, and it's been a really positive sort of vehicle to get our messaging out there. So thank you again to all of those people who are an integral part of our animal services team. Next slide, please, Laura. And just like our internal partners, we do have an external scope that consists of many different organizations, as they're listed here on the slide. The OSPCA has been a partner of ours for almost 2 decades. They currently supply our sheltering services for all of our domestic animals, as well as the mayor indicated, the Cat Adoption Education Center. And I will get into more details in regards to their services later on in the presentation. Additionally, Shades of Hope and Gail is here today. Welcome, Gail. And they provide our wildlife rehabilitation services. Again, I will get into more detail about that relationship later on in the slides. The region, so York Regional Police and York Regional Health, public health and our officers work quite closely on rabies cases, dog bite situations, and we assist each other in those. York Regional Police are a huge partner of ours. We assist them in situations where, unfortunately, animals again have been left behind due to incarceration, hospitalization, any sort of criminal activity. So they are they rely on us for any sort of animal that's left behind in those situations. The Provincial Animal Welfare Services Agency, so they were in place of, some of you will be familiar with the Ontario SPCA agents. This is the provincial body that has oversight over animal neglect and cruelty. And we work very closely with them on situations where they're more severe, most specifically puppy mills, unfortunately, but they're one of our valued partners as well. Coyote Watch Canada, and we have Leslie Sampson here as a representative from them. And again, I will speak to our excellent partnership later on in my slides. The Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, formerly the MNR. That's a mouthful, but we do interact with conservation officers from time to time as well. Parks Canada, we do have a large parcel of the Rouge Park within our municipal boundaries, so we work with them rather closely. And lastly, the Animal Shelter Professionals of Ontario. They are a board that is a network of municipal organizations that connect on evolving animal-related issues, and that's province-wide. So we exchange information, and we ensure that we ask each other for advice on certain situations. So it's a wonderful organization that assists all of animal services in general. Next slide, please. 2023 was a great year for animal services. Our name and messaging continue to increase within the public realm. And I'm just going to briefly go over a couple of our high-level accomplishments that were achieved last year. Next slide, please, Laura. The first was our public awareness and communication. We really increased that last year. We implemented an extensive public awareness campaign and got messaging out on our social media platforms on hot topics related to animal services, coyotes, feeding of wildlife, licensing your pets, leash your dogs, etc. Like I said, we did utilize social media to get out that messaging. In addition, we updated our webpage, made it more up to date, more of our information added to it, consistent with our messaging and our key priorities in terms of education. And we created a vanity URL. So essentially markham.ca/animal services. And that just makes it easier for us or for the public to reach our information on our webpage. Next slide, please. So here are 3 Instagram photos or social media social media videos that I do have to say kudos to our business licensing partners who are a little bit more tech savvy than myself and created these for us late last year. So we plan to actually deploy them and share them on all of our dedicated social media platforms in the coming months. And we encourage you all, if you see them, to please share them so we get our messaging out there of the importance of leashing your pets, pet licensing, and feeding of wildlife and coyotes. And we're going to play them all for you if we can. Laura? I'm not sure if they will launch.
I'm playing it. Can you guys not see it?
No, unfortunately, we can't.
Okay.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, technology isn't always our friend, but we will be launching them very shortly on our upcoming social media platforms. So watch out for them. And as I said, we encourage you to share them to assist in getting our messaging out to the public. Next slide, Laura.
I think I have to stop sharing and restart sharing. Sorry, something has glitched.
That's okay. If we can get them to work later on, we'll share them. But for now, in the interest of time, let's just proceed with the presentation. As I said, we hope to share them in the coming weeks on our social media. So please take a peek and please share them for us.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get the presentation back. It just keeps on getting stuck. So just sorry. I just have
Perfect. Thank you. So now that brings us to our second poll question of the evening. How easy is it to find information about Markham's Animal Services? And we'll pop that poll question up for you. And if you could answer based on the gradient of, I believe it's easy, or Erica, maybe you could outline the gradient ranking. That would be great.
Just waiting on the poll to pop back up. I know that the last time that the poll was coming up, all of the questions did launch. So I think individuals had the opportunity to answer all of the questions in one
Okay.
versus all of them. So let me just see if I can at least get some results for us. so that we can see those. Just one second. So I do
So
see
if
that
you,
we had the question, how easy is it to find information about Markham's Animal Services? It was ranked as very easy, neutral, difficult, or very difficult. And perhaps if anybody does have any difficulty with the poll itself, they can also, of course, always indicate feedback within that Q&A box as well. And we'll certainly take back all the feedback that is received. I do see some answers coming in here.
perfect. Thank you. And once again, to Erica's point as well, if you would like to provide some feedback, please do so in our Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We do value feedback from the public, and again, we only utilize it to enhance our services.
Thanks, Christy. I think we did get quite a few responses. And again, we'll take any feedback received back with us, and I'll let you go ahead and continue with the presentation.
Wonderful, thank you. Next slide, please, Laura. Our next accomplishment, although it's not necessarily the most positive, but our response to it was positive. Unfortunately, the avian bird flu was a growing concern last year in the province of Ontario, and the city of Markham was no exception to that. We did have an outbreak beginning in early March, and approximately 360 geese were deceased and removed from one of our stormwater management ponds. We did engage with a contractor, and operations again did assist us in that removal. Officers were also assisting residents with the safe removal of geese from their property, or any birds for that matter, just as a precaution. And all of the geese were disposed of at the proper waste facilities, and they were incinerated to ensure that the disease was not transmittable to other species. Geese were tested through Shades of Hope and the Canadian Wildlife Federation in Guelph, just to determine that they were in fact positive. And we are prepared with all PPE and procedures and policies in the unfortunate event that another outbreak does occur within the municipality. Next slide, please. We did perform a multitude of animal care officer training last year. A specialized skill set is required in order to be an animal care officer within the municipality. They utilize specialized equipment to perform their day-to-day tasks and duties in order to ensure safety of staff and the public and animals as well. We have specialized training that is required for everyone to participate in prior to becoming an animal services officer. This includes our use of force training, and that allows for officers to utilize and deploy bite sticks or capsicum spray in the event that they are confronted with an aggressive or dangerous dog. Additionally, we did attend some canine behavioral training, which prepared us for reading animal behaviors, body language, response times, etc., which again will assist us in determining how to proceed in the most safe and effective manner when dealing with those types of situations. And all of our animal care officers are certified municipal law enforcement officers. That's a provincial designation. And they also attended and are certified in catchpole training. And again, that's to ensure that we are utilizing all of the equipment that's deployed daily in the proper, most safe, effective, and efficient manner for the officers, as well as the animals that they're handling. Next slide, please. Just speaking of equipment, we did deploy a new animal services customized vehicle last year. This is equipped with proper caging and restraints for animal transport. Again, this is just equipping our animal service officers with the most efficient and effective equipment in order to do their job as safely as possible. Next slide, please. And our final large-scale accomplishment from 2023 was our resident survey. Shout out to the contact center who assisted us with these callbacks in this survey. They are awesome, and we love them in animal services. And they called approximately 300 individuals who had utilized our services last year. And the response was overwhelmingly positive. About 98% of the individuals responded with positivity towards animal services. And the most important feedback was basically that animal services is extremely important, and that they support and encourage the city's program and the response to the calls. And I can say that we will be conducting an additional survey in the fall, calling back again some residents who utilized our service over the busy summer months. So if you will be one of them, look out for our callback resident survey. And again, we appreciate your feedback, as it does assist us in enhancing that service delivery that we have. Next slide, please. And we have our third poll question. How satisfied are you with Markham's animal services program? And it might just take a moment for Erica to load it. And it's number 3. So if you've already answered 1 and 2, which we have, please scroll down to number 3 and answer the third question.
I see some answers coming in, Christy, as well. If you have any specific follow-up questions, or if you just are looking for some expansion on the answers, of course, anybody with additional feedback, feel free to use that Q&A box. Again, all feedback, we will be certainly taking it back and keeping it in consideration when looking at improvements for the animal services program. We'll continue to keep an eye on any responses to the polls, but I'll let Christy continue her presentation.
Okay. So I'm going to quickly review some of our stats from last year, along with some of the stats from 2024 as of April 30th. This is kind of going to give you sort of an overview and illustrate how busy we are within our unit, and basically demonstrate how our program is continuing to grow within the community as more and more people become aware of our response to the services provided by the municipality. Next slide, please, Laura. So in 2023, as of the end, we did receive 3,083 calls through the contact center and our after hours voicemail line. Of that, 1,548 were specifically related to wildlife, and 4,914 inspections were completed. And what that means is that of those 3,000, over 3,000 cases, there are certain calls that require more than one visit to a property or an area. A very good example of that is off-leash park patrols, where we do receive concerns regarding people who have their dogs off leash. So just to clarify, there were 3,000 calls, over 3,000 calls, but of that, it prompted almost 5,000 visits from one of our awesome officers. And then next slide. And again, to date, as of the end of April 30th, we did receive 961 calls through the contact center. Of that, 489 were related to wildlife, and it prompted 1,304 inspections or visits from our officers. As you can kind of see, we're experiencing about a 20% call volume increase from that time, from the same time last year as we are this year. And again, we do kind of attribute that to our messaging getting out there and people becoming aware of the services that the municipality provides. Next slide, please. Animal licenses. It is important to license your pets. it makes it much easier for us to reunite them with you in the tragic event that they become lost or stolen. Even with a microchip, it can be difficult. There are hundreds of different brands of microchips out there, and unfortunately, we don't have the equipment that will read all of those chips. Additionally, people sometimes forget to actually register the microchip online and provide all of the information. So licensing is an integral part and extremely important within animal services. So last year we did have 7,970 licenses on file, and our officers managed to get 673 new ones. And again, licensing is also important in identifying animals in situations that aren't as pleasant. Unfortunately, if an animal is hit by a car, we want to ensure that the family is given the opportunity to be notified what happened to their pet. And this is really just the fastest way to do that. And animal licensing does help to offset the cost of our animal programs. And we do, as I said, have a number of great programs here in the municipality. And although never cost recovery, it does help offset those costs. License fees, they are $32 for a dog and $21 for a cat, and they are renewed annually. They expire every year, December 31st. We do send out notification well in advance that your license is due for renewal, and we do that through email. So any of you having pets on this call, please, if you aren't licensed, please license your pets and watch out for those renewals for those that do have their licensed pets already. Next slide, please. 2024, we again, with incredible help from the contact center, we can't thank them enough. We have 8,151 licenses on file, and my officers, as of April 31st, were managed to obtain 289 new ones. You will notice a little bit of obviously a discrepancy, and basically, as I was saying, the contact center did assist us with an audit of all of our licensees on our system. They did some callbacks to see if some of the older files, the animals were still the individual still had the animals, or if they had passed on, or if they had given them away. So that's kind of where the sort of numbers don't add up, is that we did that audit and brought all of our files up to date so far. So next slide, please. Just going to provide you with a couple of our enforcement statistics for last year and this year, very briefly. In terms of response to bylaw violations and Dog Owner Liability Act charges. So we issued 40 tickets, and those are Part 1 tickets. Those are similar to a speeding ticket, if you are familiar or not familiar with that. We did have 8 DOLA charges, so Dog Owner Liability Act charges, and those are specifically related to dog bites, severe dog bites. Of that, we did have 73 dog bites in total, again, only prompting 8 of them to be Dog Owner Liability Act charges. We had 338 notices of violation sent out, and what that is essentially a caution notice advising you. Obviously, some people aren't aware of our bylaws, so those notices are kind of a friendly reminder to say, hey, we just wanted you to know that you are in violation of the Animal Protection and Services bylaw, and we're going to give you some time and an opportunity to comply. The next step of that caution notice is actually an order where we're ordering you or requiring you to do some kind of preliminary remedial action in order to bring yourself into compliance again. And we issued 47 of those last year. Generally, those are related to removal of livestock, such as chickens, or constructing proper dog houses outside that meet our bylaw standards. And we did receive 151 barking calls last year, and we do have an extensive barking protocol in terms of these. The people who report the calls to us and the concerns with barking are required to provide us with a bark log, and that is essentially where you log the date, time, and duration of when a dog is barking. And we ask you to keep track of this for roughly a week. And again, we utilize that to really demonstrate that there is a violation of our bylaw and that there is persistent barking and it can be deemed as a nuisance. As we know, all dogs do bark, but it's when it starts to interfere with your ability to relax and have peace in your property, that's when we intervene. And we did issue 23 notices to muzzle last year. And those, again, were a result of dog bites. They weren't severe enough or at the stage where it required a DOLA charge. But we did issue those notices to muzzle, which means that if a dog leaves your property, you are required to have it muzzled at all times. It must be on a short leash. It cannot be walked by anybody under the ages of 16. And again, that's just to ensure public safety. Next slide, please. And again, as of this year, April 30th, we've issued 13 tickets. We've had 0 DOLA charges. 15 dog bites have been registered with us. 63 notices of violation or caution notices encouraging you to comply with the bylaw. We've issued 8 orders, had 47 barking calls, and 5 notices to muzzle. Next slide, please. As I did state earlier, one of our fantastic partners is the Ontario SPCA, and we've had that partnership for approximately 2 decades. We were supposed to have representatives from the OSPCA joining us today. However, there was a family emergency and unfortunately they weren't able to be here. Having said that, if you do have any questions or feedback that you'd like to provide, please do so in the Q&A box and I will happily reach out to them if need be, and we'll get that information to whoever is requesting it. And again, they're currently responsible for sheltering all of our domestic animals, cats, dogs, small mammals. They're located in northern Whitchurch-Stouffville, and they are a temporary home for all of our domestic strays that we find within the municipality. And whether that be they're being held for the reunification with their family or they're transitioning to their new forever loving home. So last year, we took 144 cats to the OSPCA shelter, and we had a 92% positivity rate, which means that only 8% of the cats that entered our facility were euthanized. 88% were adopted, and 4% were reunited with their family. We took 141 dogs to the shelter. 95% had positive outcomes. 5% were euthanized. There was an 11% adoption rate and 84% reunification with their family. Now, again, it's important to note our adoption or our euthanasia numbers have increased substantially year over year, and we are very proud of these. And again, it is only performed in extremely rare, dire conditions where an animal, their prognosis is extremely grave and they're suffering and there's really no other option. This is the best course of action for the animal. And these decisions are not made lightly, and they're reviewed by city staff, myself, as well as certified professionals at the OSPCA. So again, euthanasia is not something that we take very lightly, and we pride ourselves on having such low euthanasia rates with all of our animals. Next slide, please. So again, as of April 30th, 36 cats were taken to the shelter, 95% positivity rate, 5% euthanasia. Of the positivity, 74% were adopted, 21% were reunited with their family, 46 dogs were taken to the shelter, 98% positivity rate, so 2% euthanasia, 38% were adopted, and 60 were reunited with their family. And I want to just say this particular situation that you see here with this gentleman being reunited with his beloved puppy was probably one of the most rewarding situations for our staff, my officers and myself included. I was there that day. This family actually is from Bradford, and we presume, unfortunately, this little guy was stolen from his backyard, and he was dumped somewhere in Markham. And the power of social media is absolutely incredible because we scoured all of the social media platforms and managed to find their post. And I can't even begin to describe you how happy these people were to see their puppy again and be reunited with him after, 4 days of missing him and kind of losing hope. So this is just one of those wonderful situations that is heartwarming and make our job so rewarding and so incredible. So I just wanted to share that heartwarming story with all of you. Next slide, please. I do believe, again, the mayor touched on it earlier, but in addition to our sheltering services, the Ontario SPCA is responsible for the oversight of our Cat Adoption Education Centre. This facility was first introduced in 2016, and it was used as a means to combat skyrocketing cat euthanasia rates due to a high volume of strays within our community. The centre has been extremely successful, having found over 1,170 cats a new loving forever home since its opening in 2016. Last year alone, they completed 122 cat adoptions, 264 reading therapy sessions, 604 volunteer hours, and hosted 4 events. And as part of our contract discussions, our contract was up for review this past year. So as part of those contract discussions, we did make a decision, the Ontario SPCA and ourselves, to make changes to the operating model of the centre. And instead of being an appointment-based service facility, the centre has now transitioned to offering monthly 2-day large-scale adoption events, and they will feature a variety of domestic pets, not just cats, and educational programs. Staffing will again continue to be provided by the OSPCA, and the community center will also make use of the space in between these adoption events for other various programs and activities, as well as educational and outreach opportunities for animal services. We have rebranded the CAEC to the Markham Animal Adoption and Education Center, MAKE, and again, reflecting on those expanded focus on diverse pet adoptions, which will again once include small pets or small dogs, other furry friends such as guinea pigs, rabbits, gerbils, hamsters, and will again enhance educational outreach efforts. This change has been posted on our website and will continue to be widely communicated to the public. The center's annual adoption targets will remain the same, and adoption events will be marketed through the OSPCA and the city. We did hold our first event on April 20th, and it was very well received. And our next one is scheduled actually for this coming weekend, and we invite you to attend if you're available. And we look forward to the expansion of our services and our continued partnership with the OSPCA on this innovative approach to municipal animal adoptions. Next slide, please. So we do have our 4th poll question. So again, I think all of the questions launched at once. So if you could scroll down to number 4 and indicate, have you used our adoption services at the OSPCA or MAKE, formerly CAKE? And if so, how would you rate your experience?
Christy, we'll give a few moments to for individuals to submit their responses, as well as for all the other questions. If you did have any feedback, if you have used those services before in the past, certainly add those to the Q&A box as well. Outside of that, we'll continue on with the presentation, but we'll certainly take all the feedback back. I know that many are reporting that they have not used the services, but any that have said that they're satisfied, if you do want to expand on that, feel free to use the Q&A function.
Okay, next slide, please. Shades of Hope. And again, we welcome Gail Lenters to our session. She's on the call as well. And Shades of Hope has been instrumental in the preservation of the city's wildlife. They are a nonprofit organization that completes extensive work in wildlife rehabilitation and preservation. And we have been partners with them since 2017 and appreciate all of their hard work and dedication that they have provided towards the city's wildlife. They're located in Pefferlaw, Ontario, which is about 45 minutes north of us. And they're situated on a beautiful piece of land I visited a number of times, and I love it there, that allows them to rehab any and all Indigenous species to our area. And we are one of the only municipalities to provide funding for wildlife rehabilitation within the municipal setting. And again, their mission is to nurture, treat, and rehabilitate injured and orphaned native wildlife with the goal of releasing healthy animals back into their natural habitats. As I said, we've partnered with them since 2017. In addition to offering those rehabilitation services and education services, they do provide crucial training to my staff on wildlife triage, sub-queuing, transportation. Their expertise is crucial and knowledge to guide our animal care officers in any and all wildlife-related cases, and they provide us with the best course of action. So thank you for that. As I said, Gail's on the call, and we value that partnership. Next slide, please. And here's just, a brief overview of the substantial work that they do for us. In 2023, we took 277 animals to Shades of Hope for rehabilitation. Of that, 109 were released back to where they were found within the municipality. So about 45%, which is incredible. Sadly, 58 were euthanized. They didn't respond to treatment based on the injuries that were sustained. 90 were dead on arrival, or they were within 24 hours. But again, those efforts do not go unnoticed. As of April 30th this year, 41 animals were taken to Shades. 10 have been released back to the municipality. 10 were euthanized, 9 DOA or within 24 hours. And the others who are still in care, we hope to have them released back into our wonderful municipality as soon as they are ready and rehabilitated in order to do so. Next slide, please. Our coyote response and coexistence strategy, many of you are aware of this, but if not, we partnered with Coyote Watch Canada to implement this response strategy to our urbanized coyotes. Leslie Sampson, who is the founder of Coyote Watch, is here today on the call. And again, she's a wonderful asset to our external partners. She provides us with her expertise in coyote behaviors and coexistence strategies. She's performed several site visits with our officers in the community to assist us in our approach to handling the coexistence with those animals. Education is key in terms of coyotes and our response to such. And that's where our coexistence strategy really comes in as one of our major tools for assisting the public in how to deal with sightings and interactions with coyotes. So it does outline an escalated actioned approach to reports of different types of interactions, whether it's a sighting, whether it's biting, which, touch wood, those are very, very rare. But it also provides education for residents on how to coexist with coyotes in our municipal setting, mainly keeping your property clean and free of debris, keeping all of your pets on a short leash and under your direct supervision, and not feeding wildlife intentionally or unintentionally. That means if you have a fruit tree in your backyard that drops fruit, making sure you clean that up and pick it up, because obviously animals are attracted to that. We did receive approximately 157 calls related to coyotes last year. We did educate the callers and provided them with a link to the strategy. And then this year so far, we've had about 80 calls and related to coyotes and sightings. And basically, it's just it's transferring that knowledge and education to residents. A lot of them don't realize that it is quite natural to see coyotes within an urban setting. And they are highly adaptable, a very intelligent species. So this document is always being reviewed. I'm always connecting with Leslie as the expert to ensure that we have the top-notch response to our residents. And again, her partnership is invaluable to the municipality. So thank you for that. Next slide. So that brings us to our fifth poll question. Do you have any specific concerns about human and wildlife interactions in your neighborhood? Yes or no, I believe is the answer. And if you do, please feel free to add some of those points to the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll address them as best as we can.
Thanks, Christy. I do see some answers coming in there as well. So if you did want to keep going with the poll, we can certainly take back any feedback we received. Sorry, with the presentation.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next slide, please. So now I'm just going to briefly outline some of the priorities for animal services for the year to come. Next slide, please. So the three sort of main focuses for priorities within our division are AMPS for animal licensing, our animal services bylaw update, and the city's off-leash dog park initiative. Next slide, please. So the administrative monetary penalty system for animal licensing. So as I indicated earlier, licensing is an integral part of our program, and you know, really a requirement in order to have a successful animal services delivery. So the introduction of the administrative monetary penalty system, or AMPS, will allow us to more effectively manage pet licensing within the municipality. So AMPS expands municipal powers to allow the city to issue fees to those who fail to comply with our regulations. Essentially, if you fail to license your pet or renew your pet license after being educated and encouraged to do so, you will be issued a $250 fee, which, if left unpaid, will be collected in the same manner as property taxes or as a collection agency. And AMPS is currently being utilized in our parking operations, and it has been since 2015 with great success. And fees will be issued in the same manner as a parking ticket for fail to renew your animal license. And again, this really is to hopefully promote the importance of keeping your pets licensed within the municipality and that information up to date. Next slide, please. So our animal protection and services bylaw update. So as it is best practice for all municipal bylaws, with ever-changing legislation and evolving municipal powers, in addition to changing social trends, a review and update to our animal protection and services bylaw will take place in the fourth quarter of this year. The first draft is complete, and it will focus on a number of issues. Four main issues that we hope to address are cat and dogs. So currently our bylaw addresses cats and dogs separately. So we're going to combine them to avoid a lot of the confusion that we have in terms of off-leash, biting, etc. It's just to make it a little bit more readable and user-friendly for our residents as well. We're going to address increased powers of entry, basically to allow access to property to assist injured animals, and that's for public safety as well. There's a distempered raccoon in a backyard that someone's reported that's not their property. Our current bylaw doesn't allow us permission to enter. So just kind of tightening up those administrative amendments to allow us the authority to enter those properties and assist. Our livestock provisions, so increase our definitions and the regulations surrounding them in terms of off-leash, as well as standards of care, etc. And lastly, expand our definition of dangerous dogs and address menacing and dog bites in a more fulsome or strategic approach. And as any bylaw update or large-scale policy review, the revised bylaw will be placed on a public general committee meeting, and that will allow the public to provide feedback on it. Additionally, we will collect public feedback through other vehicles, Your Voice Markham, public polls, and public information sessions. So if you're interested in that, please watch out for all of that coming up. And again, we value your feedback, and we do take it into consideration when we are updating things such as these. Next slide, please. So our city's off-leash dog park initiative. This is an initiative that's being taken on by the parks planning staff. I'm not sure if anyone was able to join us from that group today, but if they are, thank you and welcome. So there was a pilot project on the city's off-leash dog parks that was implemented in September of 2023, again by park staff. 8 temporary off-leash dog parks were implemented throughout the municipality, 1 in each ward. So that brings the total number of off-leash dog parks in the city to 12 for our residents to take their furry friends and enjoy. A consultant has actually been hired to engage with the community and provide a review of the pilot project, as well as the future implementation strategy for additional locations. And although Animal Services is not the project lead on this particular initiative, we have been and will continue to provide support on the project as part of our 2024 goals. Next slide, please. That brings us to our 6th poll question. How can we better address the needs of our pets and pet owners within the community? And again, I ask that you utilize the Q&A box to provide us with any input or feedback that you have related to this question.
Thank you, Christy. We'll take all feedback back. If we do have some time at the end of the call after the Q&A period, we can certainly read a couple of points or questions that we have received out to the group. But of course, everything else will be taken back and certainly taken into consideration as well. I'll let you continue, Christy.
And I have a second poll question, if we just want to back up one more slide there, Laura. And are you aware of any innovative animal programs or services from other communities that Markham should consider? Again, we're always looking to better our program and our services, and we value your feedback. So please provide that in the Q&A for us to look into further.
Thank you, Christy. And again, same Q&A box to use for that feedback. And we'll certainly appreciate hearing of innovative programs that we may not have heard of or considered yet. I'll let you continue, Christy.
And that brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. Again, thank you for attending. We appreciate it. If you have any further feedback, if you want to provide to us any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at animalservices@markham.ca. Additionally, we will be sending around a survey, just on this session in general. We encourage you to please respond as honest as possible. And once again, we value your input and your feedback and appreciate you taking the time to come to our roundtable session.
Thank you so much, Christy, for that very detailed presentation. I'd now like to invite the rest of our session's participants to turn on their camera for the Q&A period. We did receive some pre-submitted questions, which I will get started with. And in the meantime, anyone with additional questions who hasn't already, feel free to enter them now in the question and answer box. So I'll get started with some of those pre-submitted questions, starting with, is there an update regarding the coyote coexistence strategy? Do you think residents are more educated and living more harmoniously with coyotes? I know you touched on that in your presentation, Christy, but I'll just pass it over to you to respond as well.
Sure, thank you. Great question. I believe I did touch on it in the presentation that we do continue to receive inquiries and questions in regards to sightings of coyotes. But that document that we have, the Coyote Response and Coexistence Strategy, we really utilize that to educate our residents. And once they kind of understand the city's position and more about coyote behaviors and that it is normal, or to, it's okay to see them within the urbanized setting. The messaging, or sort of the idea, is they understand and they appreciate the education. They appreciate the fact that we are trying to assist them in how to live harmoniously with them. I will allow Leslie, if you want to add anything to that from Coyote Watch Canada, please feel free to do so. If you notice any trends or anything changing within the coyote world, please feel free to comment.
Oh, thank you so much, Christy. And it was just great. What a fabulous getting together tonight, and I always enjoy and feel pretty honored to be in the community of Markham. You're all doing such an amazing job, and I just want to thank the folks as well that do send us reports, because we do share them immediately with the city as well. Christy's probably sick of me forwarding those reports, and we do appreciate that, as long as you give us permission to share that information with our agency partners. But I would, maybe just add that there is some pretty progressive and exciting research happening right now with respect to canids, in particular eastern coyotes. And, we will definitely be sharing those papers with you in the future. And, we know for sure, though, that canid species are fabulous at being seed dispersers. So that's another fantastic value that these canids bring to our communities. So thank you very much, and for such a great opportunity to attend.
Thank you, Christy and Leslie, for that response. I'll go to our next pre-submitted question. As the city is planning for new growth, is there a plan to increase funding for wildlife services, as wildlife may be pushed out of their home and there could be more human and wildlife conflict? Now, I'll introduce Mark Head, our manager of natural heritage, who is on this call. As this kind of goes into his area, I'll let him answer that question.
And thank you, Erica. And yeah, there definitely is a land use planning link. The city of Markham, just a couple of points on this, in its official plan and its growth management program, is focusing growth to create complete sustainable communities. And it's a goal of the official plan to protect, restore, enhance an interconnected system of natural features and areas. These are valley lands, woodlands, and wetlands, to improve biodiversity, but also to protect rare and significant wildlife species and their habitat. And to help support the implementation of the official plan, we brought two recent studies to our Development Services Committee, including a natural heritage management study, which is providing recommendations on how the city can continue to protect and improve the health and ecology of the city's natural areas. And the work included a guidebook of management recommendations and actions on how the city can protect and improve the condition of our natural spaces. And specific best practices in that guidebook do support and promote wildlife in the city's greenway system, and provide some practices that we should be considering to help plan those areas to minimize wildlife conflicts, many of which have been referenced in the presentation tonight. The information is available on the Markham Development Services Committee agenda webpage, and we can put links to this in and make available Q&As to help residents get the information they're looking for on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on, another question that pertains to your group there. Is Markham using road ecology measures to mitigate wildlife being killed on newly planned roads? I know we have Patrick Wong, a senior planner in our natural heritage group, who can respond to that question.
Thank you, Erica. So at a high level, certainly we recognize that roads are a source of impact to the environment and can potentially have impacts to wildlife. Road ecology principles are embedded into our official plan, and the official plan provides some overall direction on how new development and infrastructure can avoid as well as minimize impacts to the environment and wildlife. Specifically, what the official plan does is it protects wildlife habitat and directs development and infrastructure outside of the natural heritage system. However, there are still situations where there may be a need for roads and bridges to cross valley systems to provide a connected and well-functioning transportation network. Where roads and bridges do cross valley systems, safe wildlife movement is one factor that is taken into consideration when planning new roads or when existing road crossings are widened. Some of the other environmental considerations that the city and the TRC takes into consideration for roads include the impacts to existing natural vegetation, the movement and erosion of watercourses, as well as ensuring that flood flows can be safely accommodated under the road. So there are technical guidelines. There we go. The videos. There are technical guidelines that the city does take into account as well. So the TRC has valley crossing guidelines, which are reviewed as part of detailed design when we're looking at designing and planning road projects in the city of Markham.
Thank you, Patrick. Another one for your group there. What is the city doing to mitigate light pollution, which is harmful to wildlife and people, resulting from the approval of more development, considering it is not in keeping with the city's bird-friendly guidelines? So I think I'll pass that back to Mark for a response.
Thank you. Yeah, I can touch on lighting and connect the question to the staff that are dealing with addressing lighting specifically, but just a few comments on that. Just through Markham's bird-friendly guidelines, the city does, which the city does implement, the city does help mitigate light pollution in new development through development approvals process, and to ensure that lighting is downlit and dark sky compliant. The Markham's bird-friendly guidelines were approved by council in 2014 and includes guidelines on mitigating interior and exterior lighting treatments. Additional information is on our website, and again, links will be provided to that information. Electronics signage is not referenced in the current bird-friendly guidelines, though the city's update, which is underway, to the bird-friendly guidelines, additional guidelines on lighting mitigation are being considered through that process, and additional information on lighting can be found in the city's signage bylaw as well, and Keep Markham Beautiful bylaw. As leaders in bird-friendly initiatives dating back to 2014, as I mentioned, several of Markham's municipal buildings have been retrofitted with bird-friendly treatments, including our civic center and a number of community centers. So I think that just touches on a little bit of the work we're looking at in terms of lighting and bird-friendly considerations. And back to you, Erica.
Thank you, Mark. I think I'm coming back to you, Patrick. Why are stormwater ponds located so close to highways and intersections? What do we do to mitigate the birds from crossing into traffic? So I'll let you respond to that, Patrick.
Thank you, Erica. We did have a chance to touch base with our engineers to help come up with the response for this. So siting and design of stormwater management facilities are based on engineering, environmental, as well as stormwater management criteria from the province, the city of Markham, as well as the Toronto Region Conservation Authority. Some of the primary factors that the city considers when reviewing the design and location of stormwater ponds include the location of the ultimately the receiving watercourse or water or the river, the existing grades of the site, adjacent natural heritage features, access to and from public roadways, as well as overall community design and urban design. Stormwater ponds receive water collected from upstream and upgradient catchment areas, including from roads and highways, and often need to be located close to the water course, the road, or the stormwater or storm sewer connection in order to properly convey the water further downstream. Stormwater ponds also hold water back at road crossings to enable stormwater collected at upstream catchment areas to be released at a controlled rate, or sometimes need to be located near highways and roadways if the stormwater management pond is designed to collect water specifically draining from the highway. As it relates to the second question, Erica, about mitigation of bird crossings, stormwater management ponds are also planted with woody vegetations along the slopes which make them less attractive for geese, for example.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you to both Patrick and Mark for participating tonight on questions that pertain more to natural heritage and are a little bit outside of our scope. This next question I'm going to send over to you, Christy. How can animal services officers immediately respond to deal with a report of an off-leash dog attacking another dog at a public park? Can further action be taken if owners refuse to leash dogs and to reduce the potential of future attacks? How can this situation be reported, especially over the weekend?
Sure. Thank you, Erica, and thank you for the question. So as I did indicate in our presentation, the city does have 2 full-time animal care officers and 6 part-time officers, and we have 2 that are on daily from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week, including holidays, weekends, etc. And all of our calls are triage based on urgency, and typically ACOs do respond very quickly, especially with dog bite complaints. If the situation, as I indicated previously, poses an immediate threat to public safety and is after the hours of 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., we encourage residents to call York Regional Police. And generally, as I said, if you leave a voicemail, even on weekends, especially with something as urgent as a dog bite, we will attend as soon as possible. And we do pick up those messages very frequently. And upon arrival, an ACO will assess the scene to ensure the safety of both people and the animals. If they're currently engaged in that dog bite situation, they'll attempt to identify the owners that are involved and collect all of the contact information and the incident details from all witnesses. My animal care officer will then create a detailed report, which will include those witness statements, any photographs, and any relevant evidence. And residents can report incidents such as off-leash or attacks by calling our animal services hotline 905-415-7531 or by emailing animalservices@markham.ca. Reports that are submitted via email will be addressed again probably the next regular operating day. And just to be clear, under the Dog Owners Liability Act, the city does have up to 6 months to file charges against an owner of a dog bite. And it can take substantial time to conduct a thorough investigation and collect all of the evidence needed to proceed. Even if the animal care officer doesn't respond immediately to that call, even the same day, there are options. And again, it does take time to investigate some of those serious situations. But I can assure you, we will get to them, and we do investigate them thoroughly, and we do take the appropriate action as necessary.
Thank you, Christy. The next question is, many members of the public are interested in contributing to animal care in the city. When will the Animal Care Committee or equivalent be reinstated so that interested members of the public can provide their expertise and advice related to animal issues in Markham to the city? I'll pass this over to our Deputy City Clerk, Martha Pettit, for response.
Thank you, Erica. First off, I want to say we're very fortunate in Markham to have such caring and engaged residents, and I want to thank everyone for coming to our first annual Animal Services Roundtable. Echoing the Mayor's earlier comments, the city extends its heartfelt thanks to the former members of the Animal Care Committee for their dedicated service and commitment to improving animal welfare in our community. While the Animal Care Committee was dissolved in February of 2023 as part of a broader reorganization of the city's advisory committees, we remain committed to fostering public engagement on animal care issues. As you're aware, we've introduced this annual public roundtable session in place of the committee in order to gather public opinion on animal matters. And this roundtable event is a key opportunity for residents to share their insights and suggestions directly with city staff. Additionally, we have several other avenues for community engagement. To be clear, no one needs to wait till the Animal Services Roundtable on an annual basis. They can connect with us at any time throughout the year through platforms like Your Voice Markham and various social media channels. Residents can actively participate in discussions and provide feedback on animal care issues at any time throughout the year. We also conduct surveys of our animal service users via the contact center and welcome any feedback through our dedicated email at animalservices@markham.ca. And that's, I'll repeat, animalservices@markham.ca. All lowercase, no spaces. And while we have no current plans to reinstate the Animal Care Committee, we highly value and encourage public input. We urge all residents to participate in our annual roundtable exercises and make use of the available engagement tools so that they can share their expertise and their advice. Finally, your voice is essential in shaping the future of animal care in Markham. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Martha. I'd like to also thank anybody who did submit the questions in advance of this session when they did register. I'm going to go over now to some questions that we've received in the Q&A box that are coming in. So I'll start with this one. This actually came in while you were discussing the avian bird flu, Christy. And someone asked, which storm pond were most geese found at with relation to the avian bird flu?
It was the Monkhouse Pond located in East Markham, where we found, sadly, the majority of the deceased geese.
Thank you, Christy. Is there any way to promote dog and cat adoption profiles via social media and other means directly related to the city? This individual had commented that they did adopt their pet from out of town and would have adopted locally had they known that local dogs and cats were up for adoption.
Again, thank you for the question. And with our contracted services, the Ontario SPCA does promote all animals that are available for adoption at their facility, not just specific to Markham, but again, we are looking to improve our communications with our residents and expanding our social media presence going forward. So that's definitely something that's on our list to explore and utilize. As we know, social media is very powerful. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Christy. Some residents are not careful with the set out of their garbage, which may result in the unintentional feeding of wildlife. Is there any update or any steps being taken on that you can share with us, Christy?
From an animal services perspective, again, we do take those complaints very seriously, as we know it can lead to negative impact to our residents and our wildlife in general. I know there are some waste guidelines in terms of setting out your garbage. Unfortunately, there's no one here from waste operations, but we would gladly take that information back and see if they have any kind of programs or strategies that they're going to implement to ensure that people are placing their waste out properly and in accordance with the regulations that we have here.
Thank you. I know that we touched on this during your presentation, Christy. This individual is asking if the money collected from the AMPS animal licensing charges goes back directly to animal services or if they go into a more general city account. I'm not sure if we can comment on that.
I'm going to pass that question over to Kimberly, who is responsible for the AMPS implementation program.
Thank you for the question. As Christy mentioned in her presentation, we have successfully deployed AMPS in the parking environment since 2015, and all the revenue that was generated from parking offenses went back to the bylaw services department. When it comes to the expansion of AMPS to all compliance activity, the city is working with a consultant right now on a number of different facets of the expansion, and included in that is reviewing the financial model involved. And that will look at things like does the revenue generated from AMPS go back to the owner, the issuing department, or does it go into the city's general accounts to be dispersed throughout the city? So we don't have a definitive answer on the funding model. Suffice it to say, though, that the city does retain all of the revenue that will be coming in from the compliance work in AMPS, and that will really be dealing with all of the different departments in the city that have compliance activities. It will include fire, it will include business licensing, most of the activities that are going on in bylaw services and animal services, in our operations department. Really, it's a very transformative exercise. So stay tuned for more information and more information about the funding model itself.
Thank you, Kimberly. Now, Christy, I know during your presentation you provided us with lots of highlights from 2023, and this individual is asking if any of the Animal Services group attended any community events or festivals to provide community and public education in 2023, and if there are any that you know of at this time that you plan to attend in 2024.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Our animal care officers are always boots on the ground, so they attend a number of community engagement events. Last year, they did attend the old time Christmas parade, I believe. Forgive me if I'm getting that incorrect. They've also attended the Markham Fair and provided education there, as well as done some inspections to ensure that there's compliance with all of the animals located on site. They regularly interact with schools. Generally, we get a call for service in regards to wildlife, foxes, coyotes, sometimes off-leash dogs. So officers do attend regularly to provide education and community outreach utilizing those sort of groups. I can't say for sure at this point how many events were attended last year, but we do, as resources permit, want to engage with the public as much as possible and find those events are very useful as the people are already gathered. Additionally, there is the Markham Dog Alliance who invites us to a number of their outreach programs regularly. And again, as resources do permit, we do attend and spread our messaging as much as possible.
Thank you, Christy. We have received a couple of questions and comments related to fireworks in the city. So they've asked if Markham has considered a ban on fireworks, which it can affect both pets and wildlife, noting that some municipalities have followed through with a firework ban. I'll pass that over to Kimberly Kitteringham for response.
Yeah, this isn't specifically my area of expertise, but I'm happy to provide some information. As the mom of a very naughty English bulldog, I know that fireworks can sometimes be very concerning to pet owners. So the city does have information on our portal regarding family fireworks in Markham. They can only be set off on private property with the homeowner's consent. They're not allowed on city property, and this would include areas like parks and fields and roads. And prior to setting off family fireworks, individuals are required to first obtain a permit from the city. There are specific caveats to that. So for instance, permits are not required the day before Victoria Day and on Victoria Day, and they're not required the day before Canada Day and on Canada Day. The permit process is actually not administered through Animal Services or through business licensing. It's actually administered through our Markham Fire Services. At this point in time, I'm not aware of any plans to change the city's current permissions around the discharge of fireworks. And if that were to happen, I can advise it would require likely an amendment to our existing fireworks bylaw, which would be something that would be discussed as part of a standing committee that would be done in a public setting.
Thank you, Kimberly. Now, this question is a little bit more of a suggestion, but there is a question tacked on at the end, so I'll pass it to you, Christy. It mentions that the City of Toronto provides outdoor swimming pool times for dogs at the end of the summer. Any way that we can introduce this in the City of Markham to the Morgan Pool or any other outdoor facilities?
Thank you. Actually, we have participated in an event similar to that historically, and it's definitely a fun event, engaging in the community and the dog community specifically. I will happily reach out and investigate with our recreation individuals and see if that's something that perhaps we can arrange in the future for sure.
Thanks, Christy. I'm wondering on this question, this individual is asking a little bit about where the definition of dangerous, I'm assuming with respect to perhaps dogs. Is there an opportunity to expand the definition of dangerous by weight and ban those exceeding a certain weight? I'm not sure if you can touch on where that definition or the criteria actually comes from.
I would be hesitant to sort of base it on weight and size of a dog. We are doing substantial research, and we have done substantial research and scanning municipally and provincially in regards to the best regulations to update our animal protection and services bylaw, and we do address dangerous dogs in there. But I would not make it based on weight at this point. It would be more of a behavior based. And again, that's something that we will be addressing in the update to our bylaw.
Thank you, Christy. Now, the next question I think is a good one. Are there any rules in the city with respect to the use of any kind of pesticides that may be harmful to pets or other wildlife?
There are regulations provincially in terms of pesticides and what can and can't be utilized on your lawn. From a municipal situation, you can't intentionally harm an animal in wildlife or domestic in any way. So I'm not sure if it relates specifically to pesticides, but generally speaking, if there was something or someone was intentionally utilizing some of those means to harm animals, we would definitely step in and perhaps get the Provincial Animal Welfare Agency involved as well.
Thank you, Christy. Sort of on the similar vein of implementing regulations, this is asking if we could implement mandatory leashing of dogs on city streets, similar to a seatbelt being required when you're in a vehicle.
So that is part of our regulations. You cannot allow your pet to be at large on any property other than your own. So all dogs must be on a leash no longer than 6 feet well off of your private property. So.
And this question has to do with outreach. I know that we've highlighted some various opportunities for outreach with respect to public education in terms of animal services. For those who don't use social media, can you highlight any of the ways that we can or that we do reach the public in terms of different animal services, such as animal licensing and things like that?
Absolutely. We are constantly reviewing our communications, and we do have a number of sign opportunities that we utilize. In addition, our website. So generally people do have access to our website. In terms of any kind of paper print, unfortunately, I think the means of a newspaper have kind of or in the past, unfortunately, but we do try to utilize our information boards, the electronic ones that are throughout our community centers and the civic center, as well as some mobile signage, some temporary signage that the operations department assists us in implementing in terms of coyotes and making people aware of that. But generally speaking, it's word of mouth, it's our website, and it's signage.
I just also want to add, Christy, a shout out to our mayor and members of council who routinely place messages about our different services and animals related to animals in their newsletters and in their communications with their constituents. That's also been a very successful avenue for us in terms of getting the word out to our residents about our program offerings.
And we did include an insert in our tax bill last year as well. I did forget about that. So we did that as well.
Thank you, Christy and Kimberly. Now this question, I'm going to pose it to you, Christy. I'm not sure how much you'll be able to expand on it. This person is asking about the capacity of our shelters. I know that you provided some statistics on some animals in your presentation. They've asked for the capacity and if there is a number of cages in the contract. They've asked what happens to the animals if that's exceeded and if the shelters tend to work with local rescues as well. So I'm not sure if you're able to provide any comments on that.
I can provide some high-level comments. We do, as I said, have an agreement with the Ontario SPCA to provide us with the sheltering of all of our domestic animals within the municipality. There's no specific number or limit, but I can say that the facility does enlist the use of foster homes, so to speak, in the event that they do become sort of at capacity. But again, in terms of specifics, I can't comment on that. And we do have the monthly larger scale adoption events that are being housed at the Thornhill Community Center. So that alleviates that. And the good thing is the OSPCA is connected throughout the province, so they have the ability to sort of transfer animals that perhaps aren't getting as much attention at one facility as they would at another. So there's lots of means and ways to assist and ensure that all of the Markham animals are being adopted and given that chance at a new loving forever home.
Thank you, Christy. I do see a question that was, I think, in follow-up to our information about the expansion of the AMPS program to animal licensing. And I just wanted to provide our staff with an opportunity to respond. It's asked why the city is implementing the AMPS program with respect to animal licensing. They're mentioning that in some cases, if someone hasn't renewed their license, it may be because their beloved pet has died, and then they may receive, it might be heartbreaking to receive a bill or a fine in addition to losing their pet. So I'm not sure if we can offer some clarification on that.
Sure. You go ahead,
I can
Kim.
just comment broadly speaking. AMPS is being implemented not just for animal services, but across the board. And really think of this as a way to remove cases, municipal cases, from an overcrowded provincial court system in favor of a more efficient locally based system for adjudication of these infractions. And certainly when it comes to somebody that, you know, maybe isn't getting a license because unfortunately their furry loved one has passed on, certainly, you know, that would be a discussion that would happen between the city and that person as part of the adjudication of any ticket that they may have received for not renewing their license. And, you know, they certainly wouldn't be penalized for having a pet that was no longer with them.
Thank you for clarifying, Kimberly. Another question that might be sort of a good segue from the AMPS discussion. Someone has asked if there is consideration to post animal services data on the city's open data portal. That could include intake of animals, domestic wildlife, outcome of animals, enforcement service requests, and other relevant information.
Thank you for that question. And actually, we plan to post this entire presentation on our website to allow whoever wasn't able to attend to access the information. So absolutely, it paints a wonderful news story on the services and the level of service that the municipality is providing. So yes, we will be looking to post all of the data that was shared in this presentation to the Animal Services website in the coming days.
Thank you, Christy. I have a little bit of a more gruesome topic to address just based on one of the questions that we received, but there was a question related to when there is a dead animal found. It specifically contained a suggestion that we could perhaps consider installing containers around the city so that people could place dead animals. I'm not sure if you have any suggestions or protocol when people do find, unfortunately, dead animals on their property.
Sure. So we instruct them to place them in a garbage bag and put them in their waste disposal bin for pickup by waste. So, and if it is on municipal property, again, parks or operations, roads do assist in picking up the deceased animals when they're available. And if it's on regional roads, the region also picks up those deceased animals for us as they're reported or as they're driving by patrolling. So at this time, I don't think that's something that would be feasible. But we do instruct individuals that it can be enclosed in their regular garbage pickup.
Thank you, Christy. Now we are coming to the end of our session, but some questions are still coming in. Just while we allow another opportunity for any sort of last questions to come in, I did want to read a couple, of course, among the many great suggestions we received. There was one comment that thanking staff for regularly emptying the garbage containers, specifically in Pomona Mills Park, helping prevent the wildlife from eating human food and waste. So that I think was a very positive comment. We did receive another comment just with a shout out to the animal services officers who assisted in helping 3 baby raccoons recently. So certainly some good news stories along with other suggestions that we're getting. There is a question as well, Christy, just regarding capturing of injured geese. I think we can expand that to injured animals. If you can just provide maybe some information on how those contacts usually go, if they would just call the city. I think you've given some information about our hours of service, different voicemail opportunities, but maybe just some information on what usually occurs with those animals once they're maybe assisted by our animal services team.
Sure, absolutely. So we do respond to sick or injured wildlife, as I've indicated in the presentation, and we do work very closely with Gail at Shades of Hope to determine the appropriate action. If a call is left where there is a sick or injured animal, we do attend, assess the situation. Again, we consult with our experts at Shades of Hope and come up with an action plan based on our site visit and the expertise that's offered to us. So some situations are more difficult than others, obviously. But we do attend, and we do, for the most part, try to capture and contain the sick or injured animal. Sometimes they aren't as sick or injured as we think, and it makes it more difficult for us to capture them. So we still monitor the situation and see how it progresses. Sometimes animals do recover themselves naturally, but if not, we do intervene when we can and when it's required.
Thank you so much, Christy, and to all of our panelists. I do see that we've answered, I think, most of the questions that have been provided to us outside of anything that sort of has been duplicated. I know that some of the concerns are common, and so we certainly tried to kind of group things together by common topics, particularly with respect to, I know we had some concerns about fireworks and things like that. So certainly we will be taking a transcript of every answer suggestion we received again throughout the poll questions that we had asked and the follow-ups that we had asked. Some very great suggestions were received throughout the meeting, and so we'll be taking all of this back, but I think we have exhausted many of the great questions that we received in the Q&A box. So before I wrap up the session, I think I'll hand it over if our Commissioner Trinella Kane did want to make any closing remarks. I'll pass it over to her before I close out the session.
Thanks very much, Erica, and a good job done by you as the moderator. I know it's not easy to always manage the volumes and in such a professional way. I do want to not only thank everyone who has attended, but particularly for the questions that have been raised. Many of them, I was watching the chats as they were coming through, very insightful comments and ideas, responses to our polls. We will be posting all of the Qs and As that were received tonight, so I do want to give you assurance around that. And for questions that maybe weren't tackled or that come in afterwards to us, we will post those as well with appropriate responses. And I think what I will do is turn it quickly over to Kimberly Kitteringham to help us close out. Erica might have been poised to do that. But I do thank everyone for their interest. This is a very important program in the city. A lot of heartwarming and heartfelt stories that we hear every day, but also a lot of tragedy and challenges that are faced as well. And certainly our hearts do go out to people experiencing some of those elements as part of their day-to-day life. But we do try to improve the situation for animals in the city and to support residents as best we can. So, and we will continue to maintain our commitment to do that. So Kimberly, just some final comments?
Just briefly, you've touched upon everything. Thank you to Christy and to Erica and to the rest of our panelists, including our friends from planning, for joining us tonight. We have made note of all of the questions that have come in, as has been said, and we will be posting responses in the animal services section, along with the recording of tonight's meeting and along with the presentation. Additionally, as Erica mentioned at the beginning of the session, we'll be sending out a questionnaire to everyone who participated tonight, just asking them for your feedback on the session. Did you like the format? What could we have done differently? We chose a virtual format so we can have our wonderful guests from our agencies that are located across Ontario participate with us, and we've successfully used it with other topics. So we'll be curious to hear more about your feedback. And in the meantime, if you do have other concerns, we've given you our contact information. Please do reach out. Your feedback only can make us better. Thank you again.
Thank you everyone for your attendance and participation in tonight's session. And with that, have a great rest of your evening. Take care, everyone.